We're
Nice. We are
live.
live again.
Heck yeah.
Welcome, everyone, the ones that are already connected. It's a pleasure having you. We'll give a couple of minutes as usual so that people can actually join live and start connecting. Um, in the meantime, what we can do is just do some housekeeping. So, well, my name is Ignacio. I'll be your host today, and I've got my colleague Tom. He'll be moderating. So, we encourage you to actually ask a lot of questions, especially during the topics. Okay, we are super excited about our guest today. I'll introduce him just in a minute. But the idea is for us to have as much questions for him during the subtopic so that we can go through those answers and questions. And again, the format is a rapid fire Q&A, so we'll be kind of like going fast for each one of the topics. But again, the idea is that you get all your questions answered as well. Okay, so maybe we can wait one more minute and then we can kick it off. Okay,
Sounds good.
amazing. Will, you're there. Maybe while we wait, you can drop something in the chat where you're tuning in today. That would be amazing. I know that Tom is with a little bit of cold, but not as cold as our guest. Our guest is from Canada, and it's super cold and snowy there. And randomly, I'm in South America, in Chile, so it's summer here, so it's super hot.
And we're jealous.
I'm jealous. I should have got an invite. I would have came and done some
You're
co-working with
always
you.
welcome to come. I already told you this.
We
Cool.
got Denver, Boston. Yeah, probably getting some
London,
snow there too. London.
London, nice. It's
cold in
cold there.
London.
Kelly,
Yeah. Crete.
Crete,
Wow, that
Richie.
must have been
Hey,
really
shout out
nice.
to Richie from Crete. Nice. Beautiful. Okay, I think that if we are all okay, we can kick it off, Tom, because we have a
Yep.
lot to cover. Okay,
Yes.
beautiful. Well, welcome everyone again. We've got a super special guest today, Will Taylor, an old friend of the house here, and he's well the founder of BD Path. And Will is an expert in everything related to partnerships, but especially he's now really well known for being the partner ops guy. So, Will, again, welcome. Thank you for doing this, and it's always a pleasure chatting and having you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is an important topic, and I think it's I'm biased because I think about this all the time, but this is, in my opinion, the evolution of where partnerships is heading, and it's a similar evolution of what marketing went through quite a while ago. So, very
Correct.
important topic.
Correct. Amazing. And just to remind you, everyone, today the topic is why isn't partner reps ops already a thing? And we'll deep dive into that. We'll cover a lot of things. So we have a lot of subtopics prepared for Will. And again, I encourage you to ask your questions in the chat, throw them there. Specifically for that subtopic, just we'll get the answer right from Will during that subtopic, okay? And then we'll move to the next topic, okay? So maybe Tom, we can kick it off
Yes.
with the first subtopic.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, so this one is a kind of like a huge one, which is the PR problem of partnerships, and usually it is not only internal but also external, right? So before we actually get into Will's answer about this, we have a few polls that we want to drop there, so that we get some of your insights in terms of like setting the tone about these topics. So let's just have this one. How confident are you that you get the right buying? Okay, so
Feel free
let's
to
just,
vote.
this is important and it will again set the tone of Will's answer. Okay, the buying meaning the buying from the C level, someone that is actually having the decision making. So yeah, 21, between 21 and 40 seems to be, yeah, 21 still winning, 2140. Now a little bit more
Looks the
confident.
180 is catching up, but not really.
So it seems like half of you think that 2140, that's the confidence level, and then the rest is between 60 and 80. Well, nice, nice. Okay, and we have a second one. So Tom, if we
Hmm.
can,
Of
let's just go
course.
for the second one, which is, do you feel your partner team is properly funded? Yes, no, somewhat. Let's just give a couple of minutes for you to vote. No, no, no. Okay, that's easy question, right, Afrodita? It seems to be no, a winner. We are at 54.
We have
Okay,
somewhat 38, which is
54 and some no and somewhat
l-
like 40. So yeah, right, kind of like in the middle. Okay, so thanks again for your answers. And now back to you, Will. So the first one again, it's the PR problem of partnerships, both the internal problem and the internal problem, and what you see overall from your
Yeah.
experience.
And the answers to the questions there really showcase that, where there's probably some strategic belief in partnerships because the idea is understandable. The CEO sees the long-term vision, but there's some hesitance there, and that hesitance in the confidence is also reflecting in the actual funding that is or is not getting to the partner team. And the reason for that is because although it sounds good and there may be some C-suite that believes in the motion, and that's why, of course, they've budgeted for roles and people and all of that. One, they don't understand it, and two, they don't know how to properly measure and forecast it. And this will get into the topic that we talk about, but what then happens, unfortunately, and this is the perception of a lot of leadership over the last, especially 5 years, where partnerships has become more popular, where I still get into conversations with people who have even done the role themselves that say partnerships people are silver tongued and they are not producing the results. They say it takes the 12 to 18 months, and then they cash a nice big check, and then maybe they're let go. And I didn't like hearing that. And you probably don't like hearing that. But there's a reason that we're hearing that. And this is from a well-respected person in the revenue space, again, who has done the role. They've held VP of partnerships roles across multiple companies, and now they're more focused on the like CRO audience. And the reason for that is because it is hard to prove, but the community, unfortunately, has not done a really good job in educating everyone else on the nuance across these different types of partners and the actual reality of the impact of partnerships. We have industry data, we may have some attribution information, but we're not treating this like marketing was forced to treat marketing, which was we need to track things. And then marketing ops became a thing. Demand generation became a key critical role. RevOps is definitely taking the stage over the last 8 to 12 months, with the tool Clay becoming exceptionally popular because it helps RevOps teams and you can make more connection to the activities you do that then impact revenue. Now, what we'll get into is one of the core missing pieces is partnerships. I haven't seen anyone talk about this. They talk about impact on pipeline, closed won revenue, and then the overall value. But what hasn't been talked about are the core revenue metrics or the KPIs associated with those core revenue metrics across the different teams that impact the actual buyer along their journey. And this, in my opinion, is the core PR problem with partnerships, because you can talk all day about what Jay McBain puts out. It's really good information, but you need your own data, not just industry data, because industry data will maybe get you in the door, but it won't keep your job. And I'm tired of people losing their jobs. I've lost my job a couple of times before, and I don't want that to happen. So we have to make a change, and this is the next evolution.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Cool. So I think that maybe we do have some questions in
No,
the chat or
actually, we don't
comments.
have any questions, but if you have any question about the topic that we'll just discussed, feel free to actually, shoot your question and he'll answer it for you.
Shout out to Anton. I don't know if you want to read his comment, but I think it's spot on.
Yeah, Anton says typical partner team funding. Partnerships make up 20 to 40% of company revenue, but only gets one head count and a Google Workspace license. Yeah, Anton
I
was
mean,
our guest actually in the previous webinar. So
Correct.
whoever signed up for that webinar can check out his recording. He was
But
amazing.
Will, this is kind of like what we need to fix, right? This is exactly
Exactly.
exactly. That's exactly. And the reason that they're not getting that funding is because they're not proving that they are producing the tangible value. Yeah, we can, at a higher level show this attribution, but when you start to think about, well, let's forecast this out. How can we do more of this? Um, well, the CFO, the CRO, they're not going to do it for you because they don't understand partnerships, but they work in a spreadsheet and they work on core revenue metrics. But people will only look at, well, this is our performance, and we can maybe think about how this scales into the future. But most partner people as well, like Anton mentioned, it's a team of one. So you are busy executing. You are not building for scale because you're in the weeds. You're enabling partners. You're looking at accounts. You're probably not focused on operations. Your RevOps team is probably giving you 10, 20% of their time because they are busy. They're getting requests from sales. And the CRO and CFO go, we know sales works. We can forecast that out. So yeah, RevOps, go focus there. But we need the competencies as partner people to say, hey, RevOps, this is exactly what I need you to do, not
mm,
here's theoretically what I need you to do. So we need to build those competencies of RevOps in partnerships.
totally.
Patrick, I see a question from you around the top 5 KPIs for partnership leaders other than revenue. I wasn't going to show this yet, but I'll flash it on the screen because there's a lot of different metrics. But this here is the winning by design buyer's journey, and they've simplified the core revenue metrics across this buyer's journey. What I want to focus on is the bottom layer there. There are volume metrics, conversion metrics, and time to convert metrics. If you are only focused on revenue, you're only focused on that selection piece in the middle there, which you still need to focus on, but you need to also look at, well, how much volume is coming in, at what rate is it converting, and how long does that take? If you can build a story of, well, we're actually getting a lot from partners and they convert at X% higher than sales and it's faster, then great. Now you're starting to build a larger case for partnerships being impactful for the business. But also, you're doing co-marketing with partners, so you should look at the education and the awareness section. All of these things convert downstream to revenue, the volume of MQLs being created, the MQL to SAL conversion rate, and so on. And if you're not tracking those, then you're not painting the full picture that partnerships actually impact. It's not just revenue. We all know this, but
Yeah.
we are not measuring this, and we're not talking about it in the market because no one has really talked about RevOps or partner RevOps specifically. Partner ops is becoming more of a thing, but we'll get into that in a
Yeah.
second.
mm,
Yeah, we have two
Correct.
questions actually. One is from Michelle. The first one, how can implementing a dedicated partner revenue operations function improve forecasting, automation, and margin optimization in a partner-driven business model?
Yes. So the so I'm just rereading it. So the way that this will impact forecasting is if you can start to track, we do X with partner A, and it impacts revenue metrics A, B, and C, not just the conversion to closed won opportunities, but maybe it's more website traffic. Great. That is a KPI that leads to volume of leads being generated for the business. If we know this and we've tracked it based on the programs that we've run, again, program X with partner A, then we can say, well, if we do more of program X with partner A in the future or partner B, if we're getting in more partners, now we can start to forecast out, well, this brings in more leads into the business. or more website traffic, again, whatever specific metric it's impacting. And so if we do it again, if we do it at a higher volume, that should bring in also a higher volume of these leads. But also, it's not just volume that you're tracking in terms of how it impacts the business. You should be looking at the conversion rate and the time to convert, because that's where you can start to say, okay, if we need X amount in pipeline and we know that the website traffic is typically X when working with the marketing team, but with partners, it's Y increased from X, then that allows us to say, great, now we have a theory, we have a hypothesis to say, this is what happens when we test this out into the future. Now let's actually go and execute and test that hypothesis. You may be right, you may be wrong, but from a forecasting perspective, right now, what most teams do is we just need more partners. We need to squeeze those partners for more leads, which is not always going to be an effective strategy. It might be, but it depends on the partner. And so more partners and squeezing them more, that's not a scalable solution because you're probably still a team of one. And this is where getting into more RevOps like technology, automations, and workflows will start to become more important. But Michelle, to answer your question specifically, when you implement a focus on partner RevOps, the impact on forecasting is going to allow you to then identify the core metrics that are being impacted more than just perhaps what you're held accountable for, which is maybe leads or pipeline generated and closed won revenue. This will also help you start to map out what technologies are our team using to do this tracking, because you don't have to recreate the wheel. Your team probably has an engine already to track these things. So if you map that technology, then you're probably going to find those automations, and that's going to allow you to make your job easier as well, because you'll be able to better work with, let's say, the marketing team, by understanding their tech stack, understanding their existing workflows, and simply injecting partners into that as well.
Totally. Maybe
Perfect.
we can have Harold's question,
Yeah,
and
Harold
then we
has
move
another question.
to the subtopic, to the
Yeah,
second
because
one.
we have a lot more to cover and not a lot of time. But Harold is asking, how big mature should the partner network be for RevOps to make sense?
Yeah. So the way I'll answer this question, because I've gone to market with this kind of like service offering for teams, I've focused on mid-market organizations that already have some performance in partnerships. And so what that means is the maturity level is you should have some existing data to at least extrapolate out, well, we've done A, B, and C already in the past. So let's start to hypothesize these things and have a bit more of a focus on RevOps so that we can identify the levers to pull for scale. So, if you're just starting your partner program, you shouldn't focus on it. If you are a few years into your partner program and you have a team of 1 to 3, you should start thinking about it and start at least trying to map it and understand it. And then if your team is pressured to scale, you should start investing in it as well. Maybe it's 20% of your existing team's time, maybe not a dedicated role, but that competency should be within the organization.
Correct. Okay, Tom, can we move to the second topic? Because if not, we are going to run out of time.
Love the
Yep,
question.
exactly. Exactly. We're going with the second one.
Okay, so this one's interesting because now we deep dive into kind of like we said it's enough relationships, more operations, but it's more like there is a lacking of competencies in partnerships, which is operations, and I think that now it's the time to address this. Will, so all yours.
Yeah. So again, this is a similar evolution that marketing went through. If anyone's in marketing role, like this is not to put you down at all, but marketing was a bit more arts and crafts. We're building brands. Well, how do we track brand? There's this increased pressure on, well, you can't just do these things in the market that are creating content and brand and all that. We have to actually track it. And then marketing operations became a thing, and HubSpot had their heyday because people needed a technology to do marketing automation. Now we need to do partner automation because teams are saying, well, we know this is important. We need to do it, but we need to prove it and we need to track it and we need to automate it. And that's a good pressure, although it is a pressure. So it forces us to evolve, and change is always hard. And that change is going to require us to shift a little bit away from the idea of trust and relationships. Not saying that that's not important. There's a lot of discourse that I've been having around this, but essentially, if you don't have revenue or a clear revenue story in your organization or for your partner, then my argument is you're not building trust in the most holistic way. If you're building trust without this revenue or this concrete evidence around how you're impacting your own business or your partner's business, then that trust is on a foundation of sand and quicksand, actually, because there's increased pressure and you're only going to sink further and faster if you're only focused on these relationships. And so, my like clarion call to the partner community is stop focusing only on relationships. It's not steaks and handshakes anymore. You don't want to be the silver tongued person. I don't want to be perceived like that. I hope you don't want to be perceived like that. It's nice to have relationships, but you need to show how you're making an impact. And that requires shifting to more of a RevOps focus. And that doesn't need to make it transactional. You don't need to say, hey, give me leads, partner. You can still have a good relationship, but honor that relationship by showing the impact and make it undeniable that it is creating an impact.
Well said. Well said. Perfect. So I don't think we have questions about this topic, right,
No,
Tom?
I don't think so.
Well,
Yeah,
I has one. It's a comment.
Trust goes fast when partners are not paid. That's right. If you're dragging them down with you because you're not proving out your own value in your organization, ergo that's not impacting them either. They're not going to hit their bonus, and you fail them at that as well. So you don't want to do that.
Yeah, Anton again, shout out. I mean, measuring the partner ops and the measuring the KPIs, it's key.
Nice.
exactly.
Nice.
Okay, we can go into the third topic, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, let's move. So this one is more related to the partner RevOps first mentality, which means like partner operations versus partner revenue operations, right?
Yeah. So again, some discourse online about this in the community that I'm trying to take a firm stance on, which is essentially, partner operations is very loosely defined right now. There are roles and an increase in those roles being put out, which I think is good. That's a good sign. But partner operations can be conflated with build process for engaging partners and onboarding partners. And I'm not saying those things are not important because they are, but if you are building in that direction and you're building all these things from an operational standpoint, but you're not able to confidently say, we're building this thing, we are going to impact these core revenue metrics, then why are you ever going to build anything? Like, why does it make sense to actually build those operations if you can't confidently say, this is why we're doing it and this is what it's impacting? So instead of partner operations in general, what I'm urging people to think of is if it's partner ops, uh, you need to be able to protect yourself and protect the rest of your team as an operational person. If you cannot confidently say we do X because it impacts Y in the business, then you shouldn't be doing it. Even if your team is saying, well, we need it, we need to have an easier, whatever, onboarding workflow. Again, those things are important, but ultimately, if it's not focused on revenue or the impact on core revenue metrics, even if it's a bit more upstream from actual closed won revenue, then you should confidently say, no, let's build this other thing first that we can more confidently say impacts revenue. That's where your operations should be directed. So having that RevOps first mindset is going to protect you as a partner ops person and your team if you're not in the partner ops role specifically.
Definitely. Yep. Definitely. It's like that. Cool. We don't have any questions on this topic, right, Tom? No. And it seems like you're muted, Tom, for some reason.
I'm so sorry. I don't see any questions so far on this topic, but maybe we can come back later
Sure.
if someone has a question. Maybe we can move to topic number 4.
Pretty clear and straightforward.
Yes.
So this one is a little bit more kind of like tricky because it's why can they do it, which means like why can't RevOps, the team that already exists, take this on? So all
I think,
yours, Will.
yeah, there are two core things I would say. Um, the two core things are one, um, RevOps teams generally don't understand how to do partnerships. They may engage with the data, they may have had exposure to the data, but they do not know how to effectively use that data because they have a sales or maybe a bit of a marketing focus. And so the reason that they can't do it is because one, they probably don't want to because it's going to be more complex. It's probably a little bit further away from their KPIs, and they don't have the competency to do it. Let alone they probably don't have experience with the tools related to partnerships. So expecting a RevOps team to just get it because they're RevOps people, the good ones will, but the average person, which is going to be most of the situations our audience is in, they won't understand how to do it. You can enable them. And I think this is the first step. Again, if they're giving you 10, 20% of their time, enable them, give them more specific information. And again, if I showcase on the screen this here, this is a good place to start mapping technologies, the activities that you do, so that you can clearly speak in the language of RevOps. This isn't going to be your be all or end all, but they understand, like, think about their world. What do they understand? They understand technology, they understand workflows, they understand data, they understand account planning, they understand looking for levers to pull to get more out of what they're doing or what the team is doing. They understand how to prepare the sales team or the marketing team with those account lists, with those workflows, with those cadences. So that's the language that you should be speaking. And so if you're not speaking that, then you won't get their understanding to be aligned with what you understand, and therefore they won't be able to act. Harold, you asked what is the biggest pushback you get. Most RevOps teams, from my experience, they go, "We're too busy. We have to create this dashboard. We have to create this report." And so that's where, again, if you learn some of this yourself, then you're going to be able to do some of those things yourself. The biggest pushback of them not having the time, I think that's like you essentially have to put on your sales cap at that point, because you need to do objection handling, and you need to say, well, why isn't partnerships a priority? And then if you bring the data of here's what's happening when partners are involved on accounts, then you're going to start to convince them. So it's kind of a brush off if they are giving you it's not a priority, it's not a focus, we don't have time, it's not, of the three things we need to build, it's not in the top three. You need to convince them, you need to sell to them, because that is effectively an internal objection. And so the biggest pushback is we don't have time for it, but I think there's underlying information or reasons for that, which is a lack of understanding, a lack of belief that it is going to drive impact. And that's where we need to show that by speaking their language. And again, showing them the data and getting the gears started for them so that they're not doing this cold start.
Yeah. And also will getting the buying, right? Because this is our next topic actually, which is like involving or getting the buying from the C-suite. Because if not, it's not going to actually happen, right? That if they don't care, why should they even kind of like do it? So I think that that's super important.
Yeah, and I know we're coming right up on time, and so the thought that I want to leave people with is like, what makes C-suite care? Well, proof makes C-suite care. And if you boil it down as simply as these are what the business is focused on, this is how we're impacting the business. Again, not just pipeline generated and closed won revenue or some ethereal theoretical, value that you're not proving. Again, we all know that partnerships provides value across the entire life cycle, but you can't just say that. You have to prove it. So you need to make your position undeniable. So will C-suite care? Well, RevOps helps helps your position become undeniable because you're going to be speaking in the fundamentals of the business and talking about the actual language that they understand, and also what are they looking at on a spreadsheet. It's probably going to be, well, what is the volume of X, what is the volume of Y, how is it converting, what does that turn into dollars later. And I forget the name of the type of chart, but it was recommended to me by, harkening back to how I opened this, which is a respected person said partnerships are, the silver tongued people. They said you need to confidently show the CFO what dollars are going in, where are they going, what is it impacting, and what's being put out. If you can't tell that story, the C-suite won't care, and you also won't be able to effectively forecast out to say this is why we're doing this test and this is what it costs, and here's what we expect it to impact. If you aren't doing that today, you're not going to get the buy-in of the C-suite, because that's what they care about. They care about growing the business in a realistic way. And again, we can't just tell a nice story or a nice theory. We can't have intellectual high fives. We have to show it. We have to prove it. Prove your impact and make it undeniable. And you're going to do that with RevOps.
Amazing. Well, that was a great way to close it,
Yeah.
Will. And I think that definitely we've got great comments there in the chat as well. So I think that
No.
people agree.
Thank you, Antoinette.
Also, yeah, Antoinette, thank you for the comments, and Anton, great shout out as well.
Yeah.
If you do need help, this is a shout out to Will. If you do need help with anything related to partner ops, or you don't know how to do something, please get in contact with Will. He's super open to help. And again, he's putting a lot of effort into building what he's building. So, again, please connect with Will via LinkedIn, or give him a proper shout out there as well. But also, it's important to mention that we are running out of the time. So, again, thanks everyone, especially you, Will, for taking the time, but everyone that was still here with us. And if you weren't able
Exactly.
to be live, you'll get the reply, you'll get the recording, so you can rewatch it. And please make sure that you, for the next one, we'll have keep an eye on the next one. We have
Yeah.
a
It's coming
really
very
cool
soon.
session for March, but make sure that you attend live so that you can actually get your questions answered as Will did and took the time to do it. So yeah, that's a wrap up. Thanks again, everyone, for the energy, and Will, a pleasure as always chatting with you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.